Now, even if you're not a beginner, you'll still enjoy this video because these songs are so much fun to play. These are songs that everybody should know, whether you're a beginner or guitar master. I think that these songs were actually some of the songs that developed my musicianship in the earlier stages, and they're still songs that I come back to today. Now keep in mind, we're not going to be going super beginner. We're not playing like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or anything like that. And these aren't just random riffs either. These are riffs that I've chosen very carefully to develop certain aspects of guitar playing in the beginning stages. So while there aren't going to be staples like Sunshine of Your Love or Smoke on the Water or Seven Nation Army or any of those other really simple riffs that you might expect on this list, you're going to find riffs that really develop certain elements of your musicianship and your guitar technique. So that way you can kind of broaden your horizons and get the most out of this video. If you're a complete beginner, these are riffs that you can build toward, and of course you can check out Guitar Super System, my learning platform, linked right down below. There is an entire section called Beginner's Corner that starts from when you just pick up a guitar and each stage that you should take from then on, including changing your strings, cleaning your guitar properly, having good posture, and all the right things to practice at the right time, and of course, for those of you who may be more advanced, there are plenty of curriculums geared towards music theory, tips, tricks, and licks, exotic guitar scales, learning songs, and so much more. So check out the link down below. Now let's get to the most fun, yet simple, guitar riffs to play. As you'll notice from time to time, I'm going to kick on certain pedals to achieve close enough to the sound in order to convey the riff. Right there was a Kingmaker fuzz from Source Audio, and this is one of my favorite Nirvana riffs, not only because it's just straight ahead rock and roll, but because it has this little pickup, and this is really what helped me develop my anticipation. So the normal way to play this without the anticipation would be something like this. But you'll notice it's a pretty nifty little move. It involves raking in the picking hand and muting in the fretting hand. So this is a very important concept in both hands really to learn, and it's definitely something that you would learn from Nirvana. Lots of muting going on, so Kurt Cobain's playing style is definitely really great for any guitar player to emulate, but it's especially attractive to beginners because you can actually kind of play a little sloppy. It sort of adds to the mojo of the riff. For this particular riff, we're using power chords, this raking technique, and the hand muting, a great beginner riff to work on. Now I know what you're thinking, a John Mayer riff on a beginner's list? Well, I would say this one might be the most advanced out of all of them, and I'm putting it early because it's super important to work on playing with your fingers in the earlier stages of your guitar playing. And despite how groovy and maybe complicated this sounds, I'm playing it without the bass. This is the guitar part. It's actually quite simple when you break it down. Think about it without the little bends on the strings. It's simply this. So you can hear I'm just barely bending on the back half of each one of these little chords, and there's a little bit of percussiveness happening in the right hand. This is all stuff you build towards. So you start with the first way I played this and build towards that percussiveness, so that way when the bass comes in, that's pretty cool, isn't it? Loop pedal, definitely worth investing in for any skill level. classic opening line, and one that can really help out with hammer-ons, and again, building that finger strength. That's going to be an underlying theme to most of these riffs. But the timing and the evenness between these hammer-ons is great for beginners to work on, and something that you can still, you know, depending on your skill level, take that notion and embellish it and work on the evenness of your hammer-ons and pull-offs and legato. This is basically the beginnings of legato. And if this is easy for you, try it with your middle and pinky. See how you do with that. That'll strengthen your pinky. And then of course, if you have your loop pedal, you can add in some chords. Lots of cool things going on here. First, the muting and going back and forth between playing rhythm and a little lead part. This is an excellent way to get introduced to the concept of accompanying yourself. This Tom Morello riff is an instant classic for any beginner or intermediate advanced player. There's a reason this song is so popular. It's because it's so much fun to play and it's so catchy and groovy. So we have the palm muting happening in the right hand, and again, sort of like a Nirvana riff, in the fretting hand we're taking care of these strings so they don't ring out in between the chunking chord and the melody part. So we're doing this little dance. Fretting hand comes off the guitar neck while the strings are ringing out and immediately mutes it. That's how I do it. And slowed down. Very light, but also even. And then as far as the melody goes, this is your introduction into bending, avoiding going like this. Still sounds alright, but the melody should be by itself. So having that articulation and accuracy to attack each string evenly. A whole step bend there. A little bit of vibrato. That is enough to work on for quite some time, depending on your skill level, as bending is the most important guitar technique. Of course, I got a metal zone here for the metal of Judas Priest. So full disclosure, I put out a tweet to kind of poll you guys and see what your most simple yet awesome riffs that you know were, and Breaking the Law came up quite a bit. So I had to include it on this list, and it is pretty much exactly what this list is all about. It's got some anticipations happening in the picking hand, and it's got a little bit of a stretch, so that will definitely help you work out your flexibility and agility on the frets. And it also deals with some accuracy in muting string noise because we have this open A participating a lot in the riff. And as far as the picking hand goes, we have a little bit of confusion happening at the end to keep your finger muscle memory from actually getting too comfortable. You really got to think about this in the beginning stages. Ah yes, brings me back to my middle school days. This is one of my favorite Blink-182 riffs. It's so much fun to play. You can just play it for hours on a loop. And sticking with this reissued metal zone, because the original metal zone was definitely the pedal I would have been playing when I was learning this song. And I would start with just a power chord for each of these. Eventually you'll end up with this stacked power chord with the octave here. But we can start with just... And course, we come to this cool palm muting part. So we're introducing palm muting, definitely an important technique in the earlier stages. And there's a lot of movement going on, so you're kind of having to deal with some accuracy moving across the guitar neck in time. And then, of course, the picking hand working on that rhythm. Definitely an awesome one to learn, no matter what skill level you're on. Again, maybe one that is a little difficult if you're a complete beginner, but again, we're going back to the fingers, and this is an essential developmental finger picking pattern that will not only improve your rhythm, but also give you a strong sense of harmony. These are not chords that beginners often play, and you can get that a lot with Radiohead music. A minor 9 chord, and then it moves up to another minor 9 chord, and then we have this, which is a triad essentially, but really a dyad because there's just a root and a third. And we come down. And you'll notice that I'm employing the pinky, and that's another added asset to learning this. You got to utilize your pinky in every single one of these chord shapes. And I have my compressor on to add a little bit of life to the chords themselves and kind of balance out the finger picking dynamic there to make it this kind of monotonous, droning, hypnotic sound that Radiohead is known for. A delightful chord progression, a wonderful riff for beginners to learn. Is that the heaviest riff you've ever heard? Well, that's because it is the heaviest riff ever written. Sad But True by Metallica, one of my favorites of all time. And you'll notice it's not just because I have this heavy pedal, I actually have my guitar down-tuned an entire whole step. So aside from exposing yourself to such a heavy sound, we have some really nice things happening here. The palm muting, of course. Really getting those notes to sound out, but still choking them. That is the key to this riff. And then we have this pull-off motion. And that'll force you to really take care about the string noise, because if I don't mute the strings, you hear all that going on. So you have to really be careful with each pull-off. There's no string noise in between, and that is an exercise in itself that I still practice to this day. You can turn riffs into exercises if you'd like, and that is one great thing about learning a lot of different songs, is sometimes the songs turn into exercises themselves. One of my favorite Incubus riffs. I'm kind of saying that a lot, one of my favorites. Well, it's my list. Makes sense, right? This one, like the Radiohead riff, has this sense of hypnotic, cyclical motion that I think is really important for beginning guitar players and any skill level guitar players to work on, and that is staying in time and not getting lost in the riff. But of course, as you'll notice, this is an extremely simple riff, and it's also really nice, especially this chord right here. It's really nice to play. The whole whole thing is down picked, and it's an exercise in keeping the strings even. I just have a light overdrive pedal going on here, and we're going from the 2nd fret to the 8th fret, 12th fret, 14th fret, and then back down 12th to the 10th to finish out the riff. You'll notice that little motion right there, that's a nuance that's important to get down. So it's not completely straightforward, but if you listen to it a few times, you'll get it down. That is another point I want to emphasize: ear training. Being able to listen and play along with riffs as a beginning guitar player. That is how I learned. I put on AC/DC, Metallica, Jimi Hendrix, Led Zeppelin, and I just played along and played along, got it all wrong until it was right. And that development of your ear is extremely important as a guitar player and a musician. An extremely fun riff to play, and one that you can get down pretty quickly as far as the actual notes go. The little bit of swing and swagger that goes along with it, that takes a bit longer to develop, but this might be the easiest, most simple, but most fun part of this list. We're just going from 7 to 5 on the E and A strings, getting this little micro bend, and then we have this chugging. All downstrokes, that's important. So we're not going. We're going. And that is helping with the muting as well as accuracy in the picking hand. And there's a tiny bit of swing. If you, again, listen to the recording, use your ear. Jimmy Page had this kind of ahead of the beat thing happening in his guitar playing, and John Bonham was always behind the beat, and John Paul Jones, the bass player, was always right down the middle. So that's why Led Zeppelin was such an awesome band, is because all these musicians had such different feels, but they always came together in such an interesting way. So Jimmy Page is like swinging in front of the beat almost. And Bonham, when he comes in, is behind the beat. So that's why this song and all Led Zeppelin songs are so magical sounding, is because of that fact. So use your ear. Such a groovy riff, and you'll notice I was actually playing it alternate picking. I think that's the key to this riff. You'll notice a slight difference if I'm down picking everything. Or, so you can feel a little bit of a difference there. Use your ear, and keep in mind we are in D standard, the same as the Metallica riff. Everything is down a whole step here. We've got a nice EVH overdrive here to fatten up our tone. And again, with the bends, this is just such important instruction for beginning guitar players to get used to bending in tune, even though the bend is slightly out of tune. Having that appreciation and understanding for the power of a guitar bending the note. There's a reason that the guitar is the best instrument ever created. It's because we can do this. And the ending of this riff is just an emphatic. We can add that vibrato any way we like, but we're working on raking and muting strings, so this is pretty advanced here as far as the beginning guitar player would be concerned, because we only want this note to sound out, and yet we're plucking all of these strings. So using your fretting hand fingers, you want to fret the note, I would say, with your pinky or your ring finger, whichever one you're more comfortable with, and make sure your fingers are covering up everything except that note. You can hear that's the only note sounding, even though I hit all the strings. And finally, we come to the most fun yet most simple guitar riff to play. What is it? Leave a comment down below. I know you have suggestions for what you would recommend. All are welcome. Remember, this is just my personal recommendations for beginning guitar players to strive toward. Again, this isn't Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or Happy Birthday. These are riffs that will really define your musicianship in the early stages and develop your guitar playing technique in a way that is healthy and fun. So don't be disappointed if you are a beginner and you're not getting these straight away. This is kind of like something to reach for as far as your beginning guitar playing goes, but it makes you want to play, which I think is the most important thing. The question that I get asked the most is, how long have you been playing the guitar? And I always respond with, it's not how long you've been playing, it's how often you play. So the person who plays for 15 or 20 minutes every day is going to be much better off than the person who plays 3 hours once a week or once every 2 weeks. It's just a fact. You develop your muscle memory and your dexterity and your agility, and before you know it, you will be rocking the house. So I hope you guys enjoyed this lesson. Remember to check out Guitar Super System if you are a beginner and you want to take your skills to the next level, or if you're advanced and you want to ascend to heights unknown as far as music theory or technique or anything in between. It's all in Guitar Super System. The link is down below. Thanks a lot for watching, and until next time. That was a good one.